Guardians of the Galaxy is one of the coolest games of all time. It has some of the best looking environments I've ever seen, characters that are funny and endearing, and dare I say, some of the best vibes that I've ever seen from a team. But if that's really the case, then why did this game flop? Well, to understand that, we have to go back just a little bit to September 4th, 2020, the day that Marvel's Avengers released. And this game was horrible. I hate being so negative, but this game was just not it. It was all over the place. The story did not personally captivate me, and the RPG mechanics felt pointless, honestly. Which really is a shame because a modern day Avengers game is a literal dream for some people, and it could have been one of the biggest games of that year. All in all, the game was a huge disappointment, and in a way, is the reason why Guardians of the Galaxy didn't do so well. See, the Avengers game was made by Eidos Montreal, and of course published by Square Enix. And guess who also made the Guardians game? Eidos Montreal. So let me ask you a question. Yeah, you. If someone you knew baked a cake, and it was the worst cake you ever tasted in your life, if they came back a little bit later and tried to make a different variation of the cake, would you A, try it again, or B, completely dismiss it? Well, some of you are actually open to trying new things and believe that people can get better and improve, but the general public, however, does not feel that way. And honestly, I really cannot blame them. Unfortunately, when it comes to game studios, it can seem like they never really learned their lesson. Look at studios like EA or Ubisoft, for example. Some of their FIFA games or Assassin's Creed games just have not been good year after year. But somehow, Guardians of the Galaxy managed to defy the odds and surpass every expectation that I had of it. So in Guardians of the Galaxy, you play Star-Lord and Star-Lord only. And we get to command the rest of the Guardians with different abilities and things like that, as we're their leader. So now let's talk about one of the best parts of this game. The Guardians themselves. In this game, all the Guardians actually feel like a team. Throughout this game, you go on a crazy adventure through the galaxy, get it? And it would not be nearly as entertaining if the entire crew was just insufferable. But thankfully, they're not. Everyone has their own personality, character arc, and they feel like actual characters and people. Like, for example, we get to see Drax deal with the loss of his family and try to cope with it. Or Gamora coming out of her shell a little bit and not being so deadly. And it's not rushed or feels unearned either. And also, everybody is just genuinely, like, really funny. Especially when, like, Drax is cooking Gamora because she used to be an assassin. And in the earlier parts of the game, he's saying how we can't trust her. It's really funny. Another thing is, when all the characters talk about their past or their history, it feels believable. You know, sometimes in media, characters talk about stuff that happened before, and they say it like, I remember what we did on Camino. Yeah, especially that one thing with that one time at that one place. Like, it feels so forced, you know? As if, like, they just want us to know they had a history, so they say it in some weird way. But when like Peter's talking about his past, when he was fighting in the war, or his time with Corel, or him in prison, it feels genuine and real. I know that's such a small thing, but it's something cool to make you feel more connected to the characters and story. Now, speaking of story, this game's story is genuinely legendary. I mean it in a way where the story is just genuinely a blast to play. And it's always going to be special to me, at least, because it's just genuinely so fun. It's just a really good, solid story for a game. We can't compare this game to something like Ghost of Tsushima or, like I said, RDR2, because those games are different. Like, this is a game where it has an exceptional story, and yeah, you want to get through the story, but it's not something where you go in and expect this masterpiece of a story. It's just a really, really, really good and solid game that you're going to have fun with, guaranteed, and you're going to really enjoy the story. Because in this game, you go into all these different planets, learning more about the world, lore, and guardians, and meeting a bunch of new characters. Everything just worked so well. The writing in this game is honestly really good. We have our funny moments with the crew, of course, but when we get our serious moments, it's treated with the care it actually deserves. Now, oftentimes in media, when our main characters are funny and have the serious moments, these same moments might get cut short by a joke for some reason. The MCU. And it can remove the weight and severity of the scene. But Guardians of the Galaxy lets these serious moments play out, and I really do thank them for that. Now, before I played the game, I was honestly pretty worried because I love the MCU movies, of course, and I was decently into comics around the time I played the game. Not too much the Guardians themselves, but just comics in general. But I was scared that the characters would either feel like a complete ripoff of the MCU characters, or that the dialogue would be super cringe. But it never felt that way at all. Maybe there was like one or two cringe moments, but I don't even remember that off the top of my head, so I can't say for sure. And like I said before, everyone feels like real characters, and the entire cast feels like a real team. They have great chemistry, and their arguments or this bullying of each other is really funny. Especially when you're on the Milano, which is the Guardian ship. And they just argue so much, it's crazy. I remember I was just like standing and looking out the window, and I heard Gamora and Groot just laughing at Rocket because Drax had thrown him in the last mission. It really makes the game just feel so alive, you know, and you can even connect with the characters more. Another thing you could do is like go into each character's room and sometimes just get to talk with them and learn a bit more about everyone. And if not in their rooms, they're somewhere around the ship doing whatever. I remember one time I was talking to Drax and he was saying how like he realized he doesn't know as much as he thought he did. And he admitted that without Gamora and Rocket and Groot, we would be dead. And it's crazy to think that you could have easily missed this conversation if you just rushed through the story and didn't look around and went straight to the cockpit to fly to the next planet. I'm glad this game does reward you for exploring though. Apart from just optional conversations, you can find a lot when you're out on missions as well. You stray away from the main path of missions, you can find materials, crafting ingredients, and costumes. So a really cool part about Guardians of the Galaxy is the outfits. Of course, as you know, in Marvel's Avengers, they had costumes and everyone's favorite, say it with me now, microtransactions. But Guardians of the Galaxy has no in-game store or anything like that. As far as I know, I'm pretty sure like the deluxe edition came with a couple outfits, but even then I think you could find those in-game anyways. Correct me if I'm wrong though. It was just so refreshing to play a fully linear, no microtransaction story game. I honestly used to pray for times like this. But my favorite part, besides just how cool the costumes all look, is the way they give credit to the originator of the costumes, which is something that Spider-Man 2 was missing, unfortunately. They show us the Guardians comic originated in, the writer, the artist, cover artist, and the editors. Now, I'm pretty sure like legally they did not have to do that, but the fact that they did really shows how much care and attention they put into the game and how much love they have for the source material. But if it wasn't obvious from that, then it is clear when you look at the graphics and world itself. The graphics are gorgeous and every planet is such a sight. On Second Rf9, when we look at Lady Hellbender's fortress and it zooms out a bit, I was honestly just baffled. I didn't expect the game to look this good. Every single environment and area, not just planets, looks amazing. This might be a bit random, but one of my favorite areas to look at is Peter's home from when he was a kid. The interior design here is amazing, and honestly, the house just feels really lived in, and I don't know, I'm just a little dumb, I guess, but I always like areas like this, where things are calm and peaceful, and you get to see your own home, and you just feel safe, you know? I know there's open world games like the recent Assassin's Creed games, for example, and you definitely can say those games might look better graphic-wise, sure, but I honestly don't think that the level of attention that was put into this game was the same amount that was put into those games. Or even the Avengers game, for example, because open world games take much more effort. But when you're developing those, it's probably easier to just slap around some, you know, reused assets and things like that just to make things a little easier. I'm sure it's obvious that they put much more attention into this game than the Avengers game, but I just wanted to get that out there as well. So now it's time to get to the part that most people probably like the least, the combat. I personally don't think the combat is bad. I liked it. It was fun to me, but I can understand how people think it can get a little repetitive at times. You only play Star-Lord and there's 4 other Guardians in the group. So it can feel like you're being forced to just spam your guns and that's it. But I honestly think that using the other Guardians' abilities was almost as cool as actually getting to play as them. And in my opinion, it felt pretty fire when I was actually being a leader and calling the shots and stuff like that. And then, of course, in classic video game fashion, you have your little small skill trees. I wouldn't even say trees, honestly, but abilities to unlock for each Guardian to make combat a bit more fun and entertaining. There's also upgrades for just Star-Lord as well at the workbench. You can upgrade things like his health, how far away resources are before they, like, you know, magnetize towards you, and also his blasters, which, speaking of, let's talk about that a little bit. Now, I don't want to spoil too much in this video because I hope this video can get some people to actually want to try the game, which is why I'm also just showing footage from the earlier game a little bit more. But Peter's blasters aren't necessarily just point and shoot. They have different modes and you unlock different settings that can be used for different puzzles or to take out enemies even quicker if they're weak to that specific setting. Of course, it's nothing groundbreaking, but it's something nice to shake things up a bit and not make it exclusively just, okay, hold down the trigger and unload into the bullet sponge. It still can feel that way sometimes, honestly, especially on the higher difficulty, but thankfully you can just actually custom tune the difficulty that you want, which is really cool. You can set things like enemy health, your health, how much damage you deal and take, things like that. Off the top of my head, I don't really remember another game that does that, but I'm sure there are some. So if you guys remember, then let me know in the comments. Now, of course, onto one of my favorite parts of this game, the soundtrack. And I mean, like, come on now, it's the Guardians of the Galaxy. Of course it's going to be fire. Every song choice is perfect. And when you're on the Milano, you get to play any song you want out of the soundtrack. And it is perfect. It makes the ship feel like a real home. And honestly, listening to the music is just a vibe. I mean, you can play Never Gonna Give You Up, so was there ever a world where the soundtrack wasn't a 10 out of 10? I'm so happy they put so much effort into providing some great music into this game, because music is such an integral part of Star-Lord and the Guardians' just whole idea and mythos. You know what I mean? It all helps make this feel like a real video game as well. I know that sounded a little confusing or dumb, but just stay with me here. In the world of AC Valhalla's, Marvel's Avengers, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, Guardians of the Galaxy is the game that I think everyone needs to try. I'm not saying all open world games are bad, because that's simply not true. Having a nice linear story game without micros or too many RPG mechanics is genuinely a breath of fresh air. It feels like a classic PS2 era game, like you just jump in, get a few upgrades, and play the game. Those type of games are always the best. And another semi-recent-ish one that felt that way to me was actually Evil West, if any of you guys ever played that. You're like a vampire hunting cowboy, you kill a bunch of vampire type stuff. Yeah, it's pretty cool, pretty good game, try that. But it's games like this that really make you just like have nothing but fun when you're playing. Sometimes open world games can give you a little bit fatigued. You might be annoyed with a certain quest or traveling across the whole map or whatever. But games like this, or like God of War 3, for example, like the stuff like that, super linear and fun, are some of the best games, honestly. Now let's get down to the most unfortunate part of this whole thing. Will the Guardians of the Galaxy game ever get a sequel? The sad truth is probably not. Marvel's Avengers left a pretty bad taste in most people's mouth, so when they saw that Square Enix was making a new superhero game, naturally, people were skeptical, so they didn't buy it. And as I said earlier, we really can't blame them, honestly, especially when it comes to game studios. It doesn't seem like they'll always improve with their games. So since many people didn't really look at it, that also means that Guardians of the Galaxy did not sell well at all. And Square Enix actually lost about $200 million in total between Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy. So safe to say that budget was pretty high for both these games. So with Avengers being a failed game and Guardians of the Galaxy flopping sales-wise, Square Enix is more than likely done with most superhero games, and the Guardians probably aren't likely to return. So for now, let's just enjoy the game we have and make do with what we got, right? All in all though, Guardians of the Galaxy was a spectacular video game that deserved much, much more than it got. And if it's on sale and you guys want to give it a shot, I definitely recommend that you do. I really like the game, and besides just a couple teeny tiny little bugs or glitches, everything else was amazing. So I hope this video, even though I try not to give away too much spoilers, did inspire you to play the game if you haven't already, or should just go back and finish it if you started it but didn't really give it the time. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video and just wanted to get something out there real quick. I know it's a bit different than what I usually make, but I was playing a bit of Star-Lord and Marvel Rivals, and I just wanted to talk about this game for a couple minutes, you know? If you all want to see more content from me, then subscribe. It's free. And I'll leave my last video on Life is Strange Before the Storm on screen in case you want to see that. And man, that game is a banger. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe and stay hydrated. Peace.